Welcome to episode 7 of the R3 podcast. It has certainly been a while. I hope you are safe and well. I can't believe it is May already. Whilst appointments may not be as high as expected, the profession has had plenty to deal with, from new SIPs to adverse media coverage on IP's fees to the administration restrictions on disposable, etc., to connected persons regulations 2021. In short, a lot. Anyway, back to the R3 podcast. For today's episode, I am joined by Andy Merricks from the LSS Group. The group work with valued clients providing bespoke, personal and specialist solutions to hospitality and leisure businesses. They pride themselves on their forward-thinking methods, a transparent approach, and will consistently develop technology in order to provide structure and efficiency to any project. Furthermore, I discussed with Andy LSS Pay, which provides IPs with merchant services solutions. These services include a simple application process, terminals on site next day, fully compliant with anti-money laundering legislation, and most importantly, maybe not most importantly, but one of the most important things is that no third party holding funds. Andy has been in the hospitality sector for 30 years, with 15 of those years assisting insolvency practitioners with trading insolvencies. His in-depth knowledge of this sector has been an invaluable service to IPs, and he recognises the challenge they face when trading a business in administration. Like with all podcasts, it is important to stress that whilst care has been taken in the preparation of this podcast, it is intended for general guidance only and does not constitute legal advice. Let's begin. The profession seems to be in a state of calm before an expected tsunami of insolvencies. When that storm will arrive will be dependent on a number of factors, but in the meantime the profession will be preparing. This is where the LSS Group come in. When the expected influx of insolvencies happen, IPs will need as many lifeboats, bodies and rafts to help ease the workload. Rather than me explain what the LSS Group is and the services it provides, I think my guest Andy is better placed than me. So Andy, can you explain what the LSS Group is all about, please?
Sure. So LSS Group, we are a multidiscipline company. We work mainly in the hospitality and leisure sectors. We have a proactive side and a reactive side. Obviously, the proactive side of the business is providing outsourced facilities for operating companies within the hospitality and leisure sector. The reactive side, which is what we're here to talk about today, is giving support to insolvency practitioners for any kind of trading insolvencies in the hospitality and leisure sector mainly, although we do offer support outside that in some of the services that we provide, and I'll come on to that later. So yeah, effectively, you could think of us as your Hilco / Gordon Brothers of the hospitality and leisure sector.
So that's a good way to put it. So what services does the group offer, particularly to insolvency practitioners?
Okay, so we've got a variety of services. Our main service, and where I've been involved in the insolvency sector for the last 15 years, is operating hospitality and leisure businesses, whether it be hotels, nightclubs, restaurants, go-kart tracks, golf clubs, whatever it may be, in the insolvency sector when a company goes into administration or any other kind of insolvency vehicle. So we've done that for many years and have lots of experience in that. We also offer the other services that can go with that. So that's whether it be accounts, payroll, licensing, so alcohol licensing, merchant services. We also have an employment vehicle, a company called Leisure Staff, to overcome the problem with employing staff during an administration period.
I wish I knew your services back in, I think, 2008 maybe. I was new to the profession and I recently joined a quite large firm, and I was sent to a, should we say, a UK equivalent motel on an A road. It just went into administration, and I was sent there with one other individual who left after one day, and I was told to carry on trading the hotel. So I had no experience. I was really dropped in the deep end. So I know how difficult hospitality traders can be.
baptism of fire, I'm sure. My experience of that with the first company where I cut my teeth on the insolvency work was a late night bar chain that went into administration. I literally had about 3 hours notice to get myself up to Bristol and get control of this rather large late night venue, and never done it before. And one of the assistants from the insolvency practitioners, I won't mention who they are, had also never done a trading insolvency before. So
Right.
baptism of fire, but went extremely well, and then found myself the next day hurtling down the motorway to Hammersmith to sort out a problem with one of the other ones in the chain. So yeah, baptism of fire, but learnt a lot since.
Yes, yeah, I certainly learned a lot. I mean, this particular, so we say, motel had no real guests during the week, but the most profitable day was on a Friday when they turned their restaurant, should I say restaurant, into a over 40s disco, which was a very popular on a Friday night in the particular area I was. But I can say I left way before the disco started. But anyway, let's get back to this
right.
this discussion. So, right, okay, so the services, we know what these services offer. Okay, so with the restrictions on disposable to connected persons regulation coming into force on the 30th of April, the profession may see a rise in trading administrations. What can the group offer to help IPs when trading companies?
Okay, so look, as I've already said, trading insolvencies is our bread and butter. We can do it day in, day out. We have so much experience in it now. We know the challenges that the IP faces. We understand trading insolvencies, and we can dovetail into the operation very, very quickly. So we can offer for hospitality and leisure traders, we offer operational support, and that's a full support. We can take over complete control of the business if that's what's required. We can do a light touch monitoring. If there's already a head office set up, then we just integrate with the original head office setup and put the necessary controls in place, purchasing controls, cash controls, staffing controls, all the compliance that's needed, etc. So the other services we offer can be used in any kind of trading insolvency. So that's our accounts, for instance, licensing, so alcohol licensing. Okay, that's hospitality and leisure, but it's also retail because they may be off sales, etc. Our merchant services, so we have another company called LSS Pay being set up. It's taken me 2 years to find a solution for the insolvency practitioners with a compliant solution that is fully compliant with anti-money laundering, so there's no third party holding funds, etc. I say it's taken 2 years to actually find a merchant acquirer and get a turnkey solution for this, but we can have terminals actually on site and accounts set up within 24 hours, and the accounts are in the name of the company in administration. So as you would open a bank account of Joe Blogg's shoes in administration, the merchant services would be in exactly the same name, so the funds are going directly into that account.
Okay.
Okay. The other services are the employment vehicle we have. So we have another company called Leisure Staff, and that is an employment vehicle. So obviously there is personal liability on the IP when they issue any contracts of employment for new employees whilst they're trading in administration. And you may find that, IPs will say, well, I'm just not going to take anybody on. Well, if you're trading a hospitality venue and it needs additional staff because you're coming up to the Christmas period, you have to take people on. Yeah. So we can accommodate that through our employment vehicle. So take the risk away from the IP. And as I say, with trading insolvencies, we understand the risks that IPs and their liabilities and how they have to comply, etc. But we also understand the industry. So we can put the two together and hopefully ensure that the trading company is compliant and meeting all the objectives of the IP, and hopefully keeping the IP out of jail.
That is the main priority.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I think you've covered quite a few of my questions there. Obviously, the group provides a lot of services, but in terms of, so as you know, IMPs have an obligation to ensure costs charged to an appointment are fair and reasonable to the creditors.
Yes.
What is the kind of cost structure for the use of some of these services? Is there a structure or is it different for each service?
Okay, so look, first of all, I think it's best to point out again, because we've worked in this sector for a long time, we do understand the challenges. And again, the objective is not just the transparency to creditors. Well, it is the transparency to the creditors. But the objective of the IP is to maximise the return to the creditors. We have to justify our costs as the IP does, as any agent should do. And we understand that. So our fee structure is based on the service that you require. So it's pretty much a shopping basket. Do you require operational assistance? Do you require licensing, merchant services, employment vehicle, accounts, payroll? And all those are priced separately on our proposal, and you pick basically what you want. We have a sort of standard tariff we work to with regards to the majority of the services. The only one that is obviously very variable, depending on the amount of work that is going to be needed, is on the operational side of it. But again, everything is very transparent and laid out to any scrutiny.
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, so we discussed a war story earlier, but as you know, everyone loves a war story. Yep. So do you have any more good stories that show the benefits of using the services of the group?
To be quite honest with you, I could probably write several books on it over the years. I've got to say, no one job is ever the same. You can have some similarities, but every job is different. We approach a blank page and say, right, okay, what's our challenges here? I've been involved in many hostile appointments, and we know some of the tricks and tactics that directors may use to discredit the administrators, etc. Yeah, I mean, we've done, just trying to think of a job we did in London a few years back, which was a couple of sites in the O2 and another one in St. Paul's rooftop bar there, where we had booze, going out of the places, being caught on CCTV. We had the directors walking out with signed surfboards and memorabilia from one of the sites at 3:00 in the morning. One of the sites in Greenwich had a rather large painting collection in the first floor restaurant.
Yeah.
When we went on a Friday night to take that over, the manager said, I just need to show you something. Went upstairs to the restaurant area and he said, see all these walls here? 2 weeks ago, they were covered in paintings. They've taken the paintings away and painted the walls so you couldn't see where the paintings were. I said, okay, fine, no problem. We're getting to about sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock on a Friday night now. And he said, yeah, I've got a catalogue of these paintings and they're worth about £6 million. Okay, so I'm straight on the phone to the IP, the administrator, and said, look, I need to inform you of this. He said, right, get yourself down to a police station, please, and report them as stolen. So walking into a police station, we couldn't find, I went into a taxi and the Greenwich one was shut. So we ended up somewhere else. Walked into this police station, then it's about 10:30 on a Friday night, and said, went up to the counter, so I'd like to report the theft of £6 million worth of paintings. The woman on the other side, the officer, just sort of looked at me and went, oh yeah. Explained to her, and then I was asked to sort of sit down in the waiting area, which I did for another quarter of an hour or so. Then had somebody come out from CID, again, the other side of the glass, and she went, oh yeah. And I said, look, I've got a number here for the person in HMRC. This was an HMRC-led appointment, who will verify the appointments and verify the actions that we're taking, etc. And so we went on the phone, got her on the phone, and after a 5-minute conversation, I was invited into the back room of the police station, into their offices, and they started taking me seriously. And police were deployed to the director's house to sit there overnight whilst everybody decided what they were going to do. So that's probably quite an interesting one.
They do try directors, don't they? They do.
Yeah, they do. And you've got to be on your guard, and you've got to know that there's a potential of directors trying all sorts of things. They're going to be advised. They'll have various advisors, and yeah, they'll try it on if you've got a hostile one. Yeah. But so far, we've managed to be one step ahead, so that's good.
I like that story. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Andy, again for coming onto the podcast. Really appreciate it. For me, it's been really interesting discussion, and something I'm sure members, especially the services, may need over the next year or so, depending on when these, should we say, restrictions come to an end, or the support from the government to companies. And with all guests on the R3 podcast, I ask this question. What is the one thing you ever learned during your career so far that has stayed with you throughout?
Oh, right. What is the one thing I've learned? Okay. Do not delay on anything. Do not delay. If you need to act on something, act immediately. Yep. Follow up and I can give you a little example on this one. Follow up and make sure that any action you've taken has been received by whoever it may be. And I'm going to give you an example. A country pub in Wales, we were asked to operate this business and asked to transfer the premises license. We transferred the premises license, sent the application off. This is when, we're going back quite a few years now, it's when you had 7 days to transfer a premises license. If you didn't do it in that time, then it lapsed. You've now got 28 days, but you still have to do it before you can start serving alcohol again. Anyhow, we sent this application off. I duly followed up 7 days later with the licensing authority to ensure, obviously, it had been received and it had been actioned, because I hadn't had any confirmation from them. And they said, yeah, we've received it, but you've sent it to the wrong licensing authority. You've sent it to Cardiff City Council. It should have gone to Vale of Glamorgan. It was right on the border between the two. Because of that, we lost the license. The Cardiff City Council didn't alert us to it. They didn't forward it to Vale of Glamorgan. Vale of Glamorgan weren't interested. And so we had to apply for a new license. So I guess the thing that hit home to me is check and check again. Be absolutely thorough in what you do, and just make sure there aren't any errors, in anything you do. We did get the license back, in a 28-day period, and we used temporary event notices in between, but it was a bit embarrassing. But from that, we learnt. We now have a full licensing department. We can do any kind of licensing work now. So I say it's a long time ago this happened, and that's what actually spurred us into specialising in alcohol licensing as well. So I think that's probably the thing I would say to any agent for an IP is check again, don't delay, and make sure you are always working within the IP's interest and protecting their back.
Brilliant. Thank you again, Andy.
Okay. Thank you, Ben. Good to talk to you.
You too. Take care.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for listening to this latest episode of the R3 podcast. We hope you found the discussion informative and useful. I wish to thank Andy again, and thank everyone who has taken the time to listen. Should any members wish to be a guest on the R3 podcast, please contact me. Our contact details are on the R3 website, or simply message me on LinkedIn. Stay safe.